Hey everybody, welcome back. So this is a video about me replacing the power steering and doing the brakes, which you'd think wouldn't be that difficult, but I learned a lot in the last couple of days of doing some research. So this is fascinating. So I'm going to fill you in on all the details, how to do brakes and power steering on one of these little cars. So first of all, power steering, why did I do that? Well, why do I want to replace that? Because it's leaking badly. So the gear is leaking, and the pump is leaking and made a mess. So that had to go. And brakes. So brakes are okay, it wasn't too bad. Actually, it was braking and stopping, but the problem is it was uneven. So one side was grabbing harder than the other side, right? And so I did a flush and I changed the calipers, but that didn't seem to fix it. So, so I'm gonna do a deep dive. Anyways, so I learned a lot. So I'll show you what we got so far and show you what the issues are. So I removed the gear and I removed the pump, and the whole engine bay and the whole engine, everything was caked in oil. It was just so much hardened oil everywhere, and also here, also this K member was all caked in oil, probably because this oil filter, there's no easy way to remove it without making a mess. So I have to figure that out too. But anyways, as you can see, I scraped all the oil, old oil. I collected about 2 pounds of caked oil that was all over this thing, and then I power washed it, so it looks great. You can even see the K member now, where you couldn't even see it before. So everything was just horrible, but it's cleaned up now. So that's great. And I've ordered parts, so these are the old ones there, so I'll send them in for a cord charge, and that should be coming in soon. So I'll get to that later. So brakes. So removing the master cylinder, and then I saw the first issue, which I didn't see on the old charger, probably because it was a different system, I'm not too sure. But anyways, as you can see here, so you see this is a pin, and that pin is like a set screw, right? It can get screwed in and screwed out, right? So this is how you adjust the slack on the brake piston, the brake shaft, which goes to the piston on the master cylinder, right? So that needs to be set properly, right? So how do you set that? Okay, well, I'll get into that in a minute. And the next complication is the proportioning valve, which I have removed, and that is different than the 68 that I did. So I'll show you that now. All right, this is the brake proportioning valve. So in my case, because I have good brake pressure to one side but not the other, in this valve here, the pressure gets split off into the front, and this is where I think the problem is. And also, after taking it apart and seeing this, this thing needs to be taken apart and cleaned up. So now's the time to figure out how this thing works. And I learned a lot, and I never really knew anything about it because it's kind of one of the things where you just kind of take it for granted that it works. But on these old cards, it's very important to know how this works. So this is actually not called a brake proportioning valve. It's called a brake combination valve. There's no proportioning done here. It's a combination of a few different functions. So let's just go over it real quickly. So the pressure comes in from the master cylinder. This is the front side, this is the back side. There's 2 outlets for the front side, left and right, and there's one on the back, which goes to the back drum, right? So front disc, rear drums. So there's a valve here, that's this gummed up part. So the purpose of this valve is that when the pressure comes in, it holds off the pressure with a spring, right? So it allows you to build up some pressure, and the front brakes don't activate, the rear brakes start to activate first, right? So that gives the back brakes time to grab first, and then the front brakes will kick in. So that's the first valve. In the back, there's another type of valve here, right? So the idea with that is, so the rear brakes, the drum brakes, can have a tendency to lock up. So what this spring does is it basically releases the pressure at a certain pressure. I think I read it was 200 psi. And so that way you don't lock up the brakes. If you jam on the brakes, pressure builds up, applies the brakes, and then it bleeds back into the system. right? So, so the idea is if you jam on the brakes, it shouldn't be a rock. It should actually be a rock and then slowly depress, because you're going to be feeding pressure back through that rear valve, right? And then the last most important part of this is called a shuttle valve. So the idea is that if you have your two lines coming in, and you lose pressure to the front, for example, then the pressure on the working rear system will then push that shuttle forward, and that forward shuttle will then block off this valve, this front brake here. So the idea is that if you have a brake failure and your front brakes fail, you still have pressure to the back valve. And in the middle, there's this brake switch. So that screws in here, and when the shuttle has a little indent into it, so when it pushes this here, then that plunger releases and you have a switch. So the idea is that you have a brake light switch. This is an electrical switch, and so the brake light switch goes on. So what's the issue with this? Well, so the issue is if you're bleeding the brakes, then bleeding the brakes is very similar to a brake failure to this switch. So let's say you're bleeding the front brakes, but your rear brakes are still activated. So if you're bleeding the front, it could potentially move that shuttle forward and then block the rear and front brakes. And because I believe it doesn't move back, then you're always going to have that blockage to the front, right? So you're going to start complaining of this issue. Hey, something happened, right? So if you don't know this and you're bleeding the brakes, then you could inadvertently ruin your brake, not ruin, but you affect your braking system by doing something as simple as bleeding the brakes, right? I didn't know that. So now I know that, right? So obviously I'm going to take this apart and make sure that that shuttle's not gummed up. But the idea is that if that shuttle moves when you're bleeding the brakes, then that should trigger this switch, and then you should trigger a brake light. But if your brake light doesn't work, or you've disconnected it or whatever, and that shuttle has moved, you're not going to know about it. And your brakes are going to be disproportionate. You're going to have a problem with your braking system. You're not even going to know it. So what's the solution? So how do you bleed the brakes on these old systems? Well, you bleed them as normal, except you remove this switch and you put in a tool. Essentially, the tool is this switch, but in solid aluminum, right? So you screw that in and you lock the shuttle up, and then you can bleed the brakes, right? So I never knew that, right? So I'm fascinated. So now I know that. So I'm going to take this thing apart. I'm going to try to clean up everything. I'm going to make sure that shuttle works. Clean, make sure everything is lubed, and I should be able to put that back and not a problem, right? So wanted to buy another one. Well, it's Chrysler. This is discontinued. You can't find this anywhere. They don't remanufacture them, which is interesting because basically all the cars in the 70s and maybe even the 80s had this valve, and they don't make them anymore. So you can't just buy one, right? There is an aftermarket type. There's one that's supposed to be an aftermarket universal type. I think that's why Chrysler said just get that one. But the problem with that one is the fittings, I believe, are not the same. The Chrysler, I think it's the rear one's not the same. So you can buy that universal one, but you would have to cut your old fittings and then put some new fittings on there. And I'm not going to do that. So, and also because it's aftermarket, I have heard that there's build quality issues. There's issues with the lines, the holes, the fittings, and all that stuff. Anyways, I'm not going to monkey with that. I want to try to repair the original. It doesn't seem that complicated, but anyways, so let's do that, and that should fix the whole front brakes. All right, let's see what will remove this crud. I read online that it's basically your basic brake cleaner, or even acetone will work. But let's just see. Does it like easily dissolve with acetone, or what? Let's see here. Let's see. acetone does a great job. All right, so I don't know if you can see that, but right in the middle there is the shuttle, right? And if I press it left or right, it is stuck. So that shuttle is not moving, right? And it looks like along the front here, I can kind of see the edge of it. I don't know if you can see that here. But all the passages, so if I kind of put a stick through there, I mean, you can see that that's good. So I can clean out all these passages, right? So you can see the stick in here as well. I don't know if you can see that. So that's good. I think I can clean all this out, but just this shuttle seems to be stuck. So if I gently tap this thing, I think it should just move, no? Oh, hold on. Oh, hold on. I think I just moved it. I just moved it, so I guess now I should be making contact. Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh, yeah, there you go. Moved it down. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it's easy enough to move with just the back of a swab. Okay, good, good. Okay. So no contact. Okay, so it is working. All right. Yay. Okay, good. All right, let's just douse this with cleaning fluid. And we'll clean out all the passages, and we'll keep exercising this thing back and forward. And that should clean this guy out. Okay, so this is my new tool from Amazon, and it looks pretty good. So it's actually the same height, and the thread is okay. But the problem is it doesn't thread all the way down. And I think it's because it's bottoming out here. This is fatter and this. I don't think it's sitting right. Because if I put this in here, screw it down all the way, I can still move the shaft. See, it still moves. So, yeah, and that's engaged now. So I think I need to taper this seat here. And then that should sit properly. Okay, let me try that. Okay, let's see if that if this works. Does it still thread? Ah, there we go. Fully seated. So this should not move anymore. Good. There we go. Yeah, so it's working now. Okay, so you have to just taper the seat here if you buy this tool. And then that's good. All right. Okay, so that's it. Let's just blow this thing out and then lube it up, and then that's it. We're good with this. Woo! All right, that's how you get this thing out. That goes there, and this should go here. Yeah, there you go. So this passage goes to here, that's the bleed back. And this goes to here, which is the rear brakes. Alright, so I grinded all the rust off of the body, and this will be ready for paint. So let's assemble everything. I cleaned everything off. So I got my O-ring kit here. I'm going to try to match up these old O-rings, and then we'll use some brake fluid to exercise that piston, get the whole thing all lubed up, and put the whole thing together, give it a paint job, and then we're done.
All right, doing a little bit of Googling, I found this site and it answers the question, what should that set pin, that set screw pin on that brake push rod be set to, right? So according to them, so you have your master booster and you have your booster push rod, and that goes inside your master cylinder, right, on that little plunger inside the master cylinder. And so the tolerance, there it is, 0.020. which is really tiny. So the question is, how do you measure with any accuracy, you know, how you thread that little adjuster in, right? So conveniently, they've answered that because they sell a tool to do that, right? So this is a pretty simple tool. Essentially, it's just a little frame here with a push rod, right? So what you do is you put that on your master cylinder, and then you adjust the bar so it goes inside that plunger, and where it stops, you lock it down, and then whatever gap is here, then you set your set screw. So this is a universal tool. It's not a Chrysler. I don't know, you know, what other cars it fits, but the brake booster on my car is seems I don't think it's that flat. Like it's bumpy, it's corroded. I don't think it's a perfect mating surface, right? And if you're going from 0.020, I think you need to be accurate, right? So a better solution would be to have, you know, a custom tool that sits on the posts on the booster, right? So that way, that's the mating surface for the brake boost master cylinder, right? So if the tool did whatever this did, then you'd have more accuracy. That would be the final landing surface, right? So I think I'm going to build my own tool. So this is the design that I came up with. So the idea is that you you put the tool on, you thread it through the posts that's on the brake booster, and the feet here, this is where the surface of the master cylinder is going to sit. So now you know that you're 100% accurate with where it sits, and that you're you're going to be accurate there. So I'm also going to put a hole here so I can thread it, put a set screw in there, and I put a few different sizes, right? So this is an interference fit. So I just kind of put a couple different tolerances so that it's nice and tight. But anyways, let's print this out and figure out if that works or not. So this is a cool video where this guy uses a tool or a similar tool, and yeah, so he uses his gauge, but yeah, on his master cylinder, it's got a lock nut. And you can see he's adjusting it, right? So the idea is that you don't want this thing to walk back over time, right? And the Chrysler one, the one that I pulled out, didn't have one of these lock nuts, so I think I need to find one.
All right, the part is printed and it turned out amazing. So, in just looking at the calibration of it, just to make sure that it's good, if I use a razor, right, then I can sense that the as soon as I put a little bit of height on it, I'm dragging against that thing. So I'm pretty sure that the calibration of this is pretty much spot on. So I'm good with this tool, and we're good. I even put a little thread here so we can set screw this thing and do that. So we're going to do this tool in a second, but first we need to figure out this little mystery here. This is the pin for the master cylinder, and I'm going to try to find a lock nut so we can, like on the video from YouTube, that the guy used a lock nut, adjusting nut, whatever, so when it goes in, you kind of tighten it down. But the thing is, I don't know if you can see this here, this is, are you going to focus or not? Hello? It's not. Anyways, so this is not perfectly round. This is actually slightly triangular. So I don't know if there's supposed to be a set screw on this or not, but this is a non-standard thread, so I'm going to see if I can find something compatible in my parts bin, and then we can thread this on with the lock nut, because I believe this will fit in our thing, right? There's plenty of room. So anyways, let's see if we can get a nut for this. Can't get enough for this. So I think this is special. This is not a normal screw. So if you look at 1/4 inch, right, that's pretty good. So it looks like it's a 1/4 inch, and definitely a fine thread. To me, I think this is a 20. See, this is 28. I think this is a 1/4 by 28. I think. I don't know. It's a non-standard screw. I'd have to special order a nut. But I also noticed that it's loose here. And if you screw it in, it gets to the point where it can't go in anymore. So it actually, I think this whole fact that it's a like a triangular type shape, I think the idea is that you're not supposed to use a set screw for this. Maybe that's why there wasn't one there. And I tried screwing it in to approximately see where this rust is, approximately where I think it should be, and it started getting really tight. So I think it doesn't need one, right? So let's start here, right? So if we use our tool, right? So loosen the set screw. Right, so if we go here, right there, and I tighten this up. Okay, so right here is where it should be, right? And let's screw this in and see what happens. So I can start the screw in easily enough, right? And then it's slowly right about there. It starts on right there. Right there is where it starts to get tough, right? If we use our tool, right? We set it to 20 thou. Still not in. But right there, that's really hard. And it's still not in yet. Like, that's hard. Right there, that's good, right there. And it got really hard on that last turn, so I think that's it. I think we're... And I think that once you screw it on, it's going to be even tighter, but... Yeah, I don't think that's come enough.
Can I have a juice inside first? I can here.
Can you step on the brakes? First step on the brakes.
No, when should I, now?
Okay, step on them.
Okay.
Okay, again. Again.
I'm holding it.
Okay, so let's take this out. We're going to replace it with this one, but also my rear brakes are seized, right? I'm not going to get around to that anytime soon. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to put an O-ring on this, put it back in here, and until I can get to the rear brakes and fix those, then I'll just kind of leave that there and just take the switch out. This should be... Alright, so we got the brakes all bled, we got new hoses all around, everything's all buttoned up, and let's see if we grab. Okay, we got my buddy inside. Alright, bud, step on the brakes.
Okay.
Okay, let go. Alright. So this is what it was doing before. Okay, brakes. Step on the brakes. Okay, let go. You let go?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Okay, so it's doing the same thing as before. So the original caliper was seized. I took it apart completely. I de-rusted it, put it back, and it was doing this. So this is a new caliper, and it's doing exactly the same thing.
It's probably not the caliper.
So new master cylinder, proportioning valve is cleaned out. Unless the hoses are clogged, or this is just an old crappy design. Okay. Okay, so I thought that it was actually the line that was leaking. So that would explain why there's a loss of pressure, but I think the issue is actually that inverted flare male end, which is inside here, didn't sit properly. Okay, step on the brakes. Yeah, so what's happening is...
Do you have a microphone in here?
Yeah, just step on the brakes again, Kat.
I'm stepping.
Yeah, let release. Okay, let go. Step on them again. Okay.
You want me to step again?
Yeah, step on the brakes again. So it's actually leaking from here and then dripping down. And then dripping it here, which makes it look like this is leaking, but I don't think this one's leaking. I don't think the line is bad. I think the line is okay. The issue is here. Okay, so I gotta take this whole thing out again. Okay, so the learning continues. Number one, that combination valve is called the Kelsey-Hayes valve. And that has been on GM, Ford, Chrysler cars, and it's the same design, but the fittings change, right? So that universal fitting, universal part, that's why it's, fittings don't fit, right? It's different for every vehicle. Anyways, so, and that Kelsey-Hayes design has been common even up to 90s, maybe even more. I'm not sure, but it's a common design, and it's discontinued. Anyways, second thing, O-rings. These are my nitrile O-rings. These are not compatible with brake fluid, because brake fluid is too caustic. So all the O-rings that I put on, well, I'm going to put on 3 of them, I'm going to take them out again. So, of course, with the EPDM brake fittings, those only rings are the only good ones. So I am going to put the original ones back, and hopefully they don't leak. And the last thing, so the fitting is leaking, right? And so it's either going to be a bad fitting or it's split at the bottom, and I checked, it's not bad, right? The flare is bad, it's not. Or you have to machine these brass seats, right? So all so when I tried to take that apart, they were all stuck in there. But this is the only one that actually popped off, right? And that's the one that's leaking. So so there's no O-ring here at the bottom, right? Essentially, you just, what they say, you machine it. So the idea is, you know, these tips here, I don't know if you can see this, but basically this tip is gouged, right? And so you're supposed to machine it, and that creates a good seal. Now, I've done a lot of brake lines, and I've never done this, right? Even on the old Charger, I didn't do any of these. I didn't fix any of these, right? On the combination valve or anything, and I've never got a leak, right? So I only have one line that's leaking. The rest of them aren't leaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try machining this, and then I'm going to put it on. And I think what you have to do is you kind of have to hammer this on, right? So maybe it wasn't seating properly, and that's the issue. So I'm going to just put that on, machine it, hammer it on, retighten it, and recheck it, right? And if that doesn't work, then I have to take the valve off. Because right now everything is plumbed and there's fluid in it. If I take it off, it's going to be a mess. I don't want to do that. Let's see what happens. Okay, looks good. I just have a feeling that it wasn't seated properly. Let me guess what it was. I don't think it's dirty. I don't feel any burrs. But let's seat it down properly, tighten it in. Like that'll be fine. Okay, so the line does not leak anymore, so machining that seat fixed it. And I replaced the O-rings with the old ones, and I just quickly bled the system, and it looks like everything's okay, right? So nothing is leaking, everything's okay. So I could button everything up at this point, but there's a couple lines which don't look that good. In general, with these, 50, 60-year-old car, you probably want to replace all the brake lines because you don't know what kind of crap is in there anyways. So I'm going to replace the front left line, which is a short line, and I'm going to replace the other line, the main line for the master cylinder. So basically all new lines. I'm not going to touch the right one because that's a big pain, and also I can do it after. I don't need to do it right now to get all that fender, the whole front left end buttoned up. So I'll wait till I'm, stuck on the side of the road sometime before I need to look at that. So anyway, I got most of the lines replaced, so should be okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and flare these up and get these done. So I'm just bending up this brake line, and it's coming really well. And so I always remembered, even on that old Dodge, that the OEM brake lines have very sharp bends, right? So, and I could never get them really that sharp because I had this universal tool, and I never got them that straight. But in this case, it does kind of have to be perfect because of the way it follows the other line. So I 3D printed this tool, which is basically just a 3/16 bender. And I've been getting really sharp lines, even sharper than the original, right? Because the original has this kind of coil wrapped around it, and I think they just kind of do it by hand. But this is very accurate. So I'm just going to bend. As you can see, we're doing really well here. I got my original. Alright, and then you just kind of snap on the little tool here. And then you can eyeball where the bend should be. So in this one, it's about there. You can make this a little bit longer and then just wrap around. It doesn't have to be that tight. So right up there. How nice that is. Perfect bend. Okay, new lines everywhere except for the one. New hoses, new everything. I cleaned up the rotors a little bit with a... Alright, right there. Okay, buddy, step on the brakes. Okay, let go. Okay. Okay, so new everything and no change. I have a feeling that, you know, if you ride this thing, if you go out and ride this thing for an hour, I'm sure the whole... Because these have not been run in, I don't know how many years, 30 years. So I think once the rotors and the pads wear in a little bit, then I think we're going to be fine. Anyways, all right, we're done with brakes. All right, let's move on to power steering. So these are the Rock Auto parts that just came in. So let's see if I was right. Okay, that's not what I ordered. I ordered the other type, but according to these guys, so this is the one that I ordered, and they gave me this one, but it says that this unit can take 2 different reservoirs, and both designs are acceptable for it. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that they're both acceptable. I mean, I don't care, but technically, they ordered this one, not this one. Okay, but they both look okay. This one's got the spout pointing that way, and this one's got it pointing this way. Otherwise, they look pretty good. Okay. That looks pretty good. It's different though. This front end is, in fact, this whole thing is different. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So this is the, that's the high pressure. That's this. And the low pressure doesn't matter. Yeah, looks okay. Call me crazy, but I don't think this fits. It's just not, it's not sitting flush against the brackets. It won't sit back. And I believe that it's not the same design, right? But it's hitting one of the brackets on the K member. Right? I think I had to shave part of the K member to get this in. Like, it probably fits in general, right? That's kind of the problem. That's the problem with these third-party parts on a car that's 50 years old, right? So 50 years after the fact, right? Here's a part that generally fits. Cut your car to make it fit. Yeah. Yeah, I think this bracket here. Okay, let me haul this beast out again. All right, so it looks to me like it's hitting right here. That's where it's hitting, all right? And this is actually part of this bracket, right? So this is a power steering mount, right? It's welded onto the K-frame, right? So it's this bracket which goes underneath here that this just kind of clips right here. So that is what I think the issue is, right? So I think I can just kind of shave that bracket down a little bit. I don't think it affects anything. If it does, I can weld it up again. But basically, it's that fat bracket that is affecting it. Now, I don't know what's going to happen after I grind that bracket down, but I think that's, at least that's a start, right? So another guy suggests drilling out the holes of this gear, right? Steering gear. All the bolt holes, drill them out, and that way the whole thing can be moved up and down. So that's another possibility. But the thing is, because the holes are recessed, it's actually designed to lock in place. So I think if you change it, you don't know if that gear will wander around a little bit. But anyways, I'm gonna have to pull this thing out, and I'm gonna grind down that bracket. See how that goes. So that is where it was rubbing, just right there, right? Which means that it's essentially, you know, probably we'd have to grind off, you know, from here to here, just from here to here, and that should fit. And then you would have to weld it or something. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Okay, so I had to shave that down just a hair, and unfortunately I also had to shave a little bit of the K-frame but it fits. All right, it fits, and it even passes a piece of paper test. So I can put a piece of paper between this and the frame, and it doesn't run. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's good. That's good. I didn't grind the K-frame too much, just a hair. And I also flattened the bottom of this thing here, so it's enough for a piece, just barely enough for a piece of paper. That's good enough for me. So obviously this doesn't fit either, because everything is generic. No one knows what this is from, what car this is from, what usage this is from. Nobody knows anything. So you get a part that's generally close, and then you have to be creative. So I think these lines need to bend a little bit. Okay, that's in. It's bent, so it fits. Almost there. I like to get it away from these exhausts. So I'm going to just kind of bend it from here, and it should go vertically, more like this. And probably this needs to be bent a little bit too. So there's a bunch of O-rings, left over, and I haven't used any of them. So I'm trying to figure out, do these things need O-rings? This is a inverted flare fitting, right? You don't need an O-ring for that, but what about this? Do you need an O-ring for that? I mean, they're all small, so I guess the answer is yes, but I checked in the old one, there wasn't any O-ring. Is there supposed to be one on the bottom there? Okay, so I just plugged in the lines and did a test fit, and I can see right away that there's some sort of a discrepancy between, of course it doesn't fit, nothing fits. So I have to see whether I need to shim it this way or shim it that way to make this pulley line up. But more importantly is the fitting. So I tightened the fitting down as much as I could, and I can see that it still moves. So the fitting doesn't create the seal. There has to be an O-ring there. So I'm guessing that one of the O-rings in the kit will solve it. So most likely it's going to be underneath that thing. And then that's it. And then you tighten to spec, which I think is 19 pounds. And this one's to spec. The original. So the original, here I put this, the original steering hose. And when you tighten this down, this doesn't move. So the original doesn't seem to need a O-ring. It's just a compression fit. The new one, I guess it does. So if you compare the original fitting to this, to the new fitting is shorter by about 1/16 of an inch. I bet you that's the problem. This fitting is incorrect, which drops this thing up, which is why there's no compression fit on this one. I bet you if I put this into the original pump, this will also have the same problem. Yep, there you go. This fitting is too short, which means that this whole hose is not usable. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so this is my original one, all cleaned up as much as I can. I don't think this was leaking. I don't see any leaks here. It was definitely dirty, but I don't know if that was from something else or what. But anyways, I can't use a new one anyway, so hopefully I can return that. But anyways, this is a perfect fit, original, and let's put this one in. Okay, the old line fits perfect, and it snugs up when you snug up the nut, so that's all good. So I'm just gonna figure out where that goes. But next is the lineup of the power steering pump. So it looks like if I add some shims here, so the whole thing moves this way, if I put some shims here, then that should line up with the crank. Okay, so I'll put some shims in there. Alright, all the hoses are in, so the pressure hose fits perfect, the return hose fits more or less okay. I shimmed it up, and I think that's all good. Alright, so the next step is reconnecting this coupler and calibrating the steering wheel. Okay, so the system's got oil in it, everything's all buttoned up, and I believe I got the steering wheel calibrated correctly. So from center, right to the left, so half a turn, one turn, half a turn, and about a quarter, maybe less. So if we put it back, half a turn, one turn, one turn. Wheels are straight. Okay. So the other way, half a turn, one turn, one and a half, and then quarter. So I think everything is lined up. So I think we're good. I did this about, I don't know, half a dozen times. So hopefully all the air is out of the system. And that's it. We're going to fire it up and see what happens. Looks okay. So you just go around for the block a couple times. Brakes seem okay. No leaks? Okay. Right in the middle. And let's take a look for leaks. Okay, there's some, it splashed a little bit, but I don't think those are leaks. I think those are just remnants of splashing. But the main hose is not leaking. This one here, which goes into the box, is not leaking. It is clean. Let's see the brakes. Brakes are not leaking. All the fittings are good. I think we're good. Okay, done. Brakes, power steering are done. Well, let's see if I can finish the rest of the car in 2 weeks.